Hey, fight fans, old school saying here. Never posted one of these before, but I felt compelled to do it to actually comment on a recent fight because of all the nonsense that I see out there, specifically the criticism against Vasily Lomachenko in the Lopez fight. You can criticize his strategy, which I thought was completely off base. You can question certain things about how the fight was planned, but I see people out there attacking the guy's character and claiming that he's basically a hype who's been exposed. And I really wonder where that comes from, because this is a guy who really has done some things in boxing that are unprecedented. You're looking at a guy who's 398 amateur fights, lost one, 2 Olympic gold medals. So that means a lot of those amateur fights were at a very, very high level. The guy enters the pros, albeit he's a little bit older when he comes in, and he proceeds directly to championship level competition. Who does that? Think of the great fighters of the past who came in, after Olympic wins and prolific careers at the amateur level, who stepped in and had to be brought along gradually. Now, the fight game back then was different. You didn't have a normal situation where a guy has 15 fights, 16 fights, 20 fights, and he gets a championship fight. Things were different back in the day. Okay, granted, that's true. But when you consider what this guy did, his amateur career and how successful he was at the level that he fought in when he came into the pros, it's absolutely amazing. So I don't see how anybody can be criticizing this man in terms of his accomplishments and his ability. To say that he's been exposed and that he was a hype, to me, shows you don't know anything about boxing. That's just flat out. Now, the fight itself. First of all, I think the big thing that has to be considered in the fight, and first of all, Lopez won the fight, no doubt about it. The kid did a tremendous job. He's got 3 out of 5 tools. He's got the speed, he's got the power, he's definitely got the heart and the competitive spirit. Does he have the chin? I don't know if that's been tested yet. Does he have the stamina? I don't know if that's been tested yet. Now you're going to say he came in, it was a 12-round fight, so he's got the stamina. No, I want to see a guy who's getting pressured. For that 12 rounds. I want to see that guy, how much stamina he's got going into those later rounds. So I don't think he was tested. But the talent is absolutely undisputable. He's an explosive athlete. And that means he's got a combination of speed and power. And he's been well schooled. He had about 170 amateur fights. He comes from a good camp. He knows exactly what he's doing. And he's a smart kid. So I'm not taking anything away from him. He won the fight. But from Lomachenko's side, I couldn't believe the strategy that they came in with. To me, it was absolutely horrific. I hear people saying that he got outboxed in the first 6 rounds. He didn't get outboxed. He was on his bicycle for the first 6 rounds. The strategy was for Lopez to wear himself out, chasing Lomachenko around the ring, and then Lomachenko to put it on him later in the fight. But you don't wear a guy out by allowing him to set the pace of the fight, which is exactly what Lopez was able to do. Lopez went at his pace because he was offered no pressure. What Lomachenko should have done was, you absolutely have to respect the power. You can't go toe-to-toe with him early, but you got to pick spots. You got to get in and out of the pocket, and you got to work Lopez a little bit, and you got to wear him down a little bit. Now Lomachenko is not a great puncher from the head up, I think, at any weight. But oddly enough, even at the lightweight division, where you think his power would be, his power would be diminished significantly, still a very, very effective body puncher. Look what he did with Linares. He knocked Linares out with a punch to the body. Hurt Campbell. So the guy can really go to the body. All right. So I would have thought earlier in the fight he would have picked his spots, been a little bit cautious, but not been on a bicycle, and then worked the body a little bit. And then later in the fight, start applying the pressure and really testing Lopez and putting him into places that he's never been. That's what I would have expected, but that's not what they did. So I think tactically the fight was absolutely, fought the wrong way. Now, as far as the injury is concerned, I also hear a lot of stuff on the internet about, Lomachenko's faking the injury, blah, 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 blah. You know what? I guess, I get it. Maybe the thing to do is you have the injury and you don't say anything about it. But the guy had surgery immediately after the fight. So that's documented. I mean, you can go online and you can actually see pictures of the post-surgery situation. He had some arthroscopic surgery. I've had shoulder injuries, and I know what it's like trying to throw punches when your shoulder's bothering you. You can do it, but there's going to be a reluctance to throw the punch in the first place. There may be punches that you feel really comfortable with that you can throw, and others that you can't. Perhaps body shots. So I don't think he deserves any disrespect on that front. Did it have an impact on the fight? I don't know. And nobody else out there knows either. I don't know whether it did or not. But I think he was destined to lose the fight to begin with because of the strategy. I think the strategy was just ridiculous. The other thing is, I hear a lot of criticism of Teddy Atlas and his pound for pound evaluation, where he's got Lomo ahead of Lopez. So the thinking out there is, well, Lopez, beat him, so he should be ahead of him in the pound for pound. And I think that displays that attitude just displays a lack of knowledge of boxing. Boxing is, especially when you got guys who are fighting in multiple divisions, and they're champions at multiple divisions. You got to realize that guys are going to be more. Some guys, there were guys like Henry Armstrong who could fight. And this is when you didn't have 15 damn divisions. A guy could fight up 3-4 divisions and be as powerful at the lower level as he is at the high level. That's a rarity. But when you're talking about pound for pound and you're evaluating the guy, and a guy fights at the edge of his weight capability, which Lomachenko, that's it. 132 is absolute max. Okay, you look at his last couple of fights, you can see that he's not as effective at 132. So he's fighting at his max. Then you got a guy like Sanchez basically coming down. That guy, he's 23 years old. He's going to wind up being a junior welterweight, even a welterweight, because he's got a big frame. He's a big kid. And so you got Lomachenko pushing to get at 132. You got Lopez making the 132. And then, not like the old days, they used to weigh in the morning of the fight. Okay, so the weight that you came in at, the weight that you weighed in at, was pretty close to the weight that you were going to come in the night of the fight, because you couldn't stuff yourself, okay, to fight that night, because you'd be sick. You basically be sick. Now you got the full day to do it, and then you have all the science behind it. Okay, there's a whole program, a detailed program about what you do after the weight loss to recover. So you look at that fight. You got guys coming in today, for example, in a fight like this, you got Lomo probably coming in at 132, 133, 134. And then you got Lopez, who's got the full day to recover. He's got a full scientific program in place to get his weight back up. He probably came in at 140, between 145 and 147, okay? That's a huge weight advantage at this level. At 132, a 10 to 15 pound weight advantage is huge. It's huge. So Lomo was fighting against a really, really, really talented young fighter with a lot of skills, and he's fighting a guy much bigger and much more powerful. So that's got to be taken into consideration when you're evaluating the pound for pound, and I'm sure that's what Teddy did. Teddy's looking at Lomo at his prime weight, and then evaluating his talents and his abilities against the other guys, against the other champions. That's the way it works. So all this conspiracy nonsense and all this putting down of Lomachenko, to me, is a bunch of nonsense, and it displays a bias against the guy. I don't know why. There's a lot of people out there that are really jealous about what he's accomplished. But you know what? If you're going to be objective and you're going to look at what the guy's really accomplished, the guy is a great fighter. He's done some things in the sport that are unprecedented, and he deserves nothing but respect. One last thing. I was listening to, and I heard this on some of the broadcasts also, Bradley, who was commenting on the fight. I heard him actually say, you take away Lomo's angles, and he used this word. This is the exact word he used. He's ordinary. He's ordinary. How do you call a guy ordinary who's won 2 gold medals, 3 championships, has made really, really good fighters look like amateurs? I don't know how you do that. So bottom line, get back to the bottom line here. Come on, folks. Give the man his propers. Lomachenko was a great fighter. He lost to a really, really talented, strong, upcoming kid who one day may be at that level. I think he's got all the tools to do it. We'll see how his power transfers when he fights at 140 and perhaps 140, 147. We'll see what happens. We'll see whether he can do what Lomo didn't do. Okay, but right now, Teddy is right, and Lomo deserves all the respect. Come on, man, stop the nonsense. Give the man his due.